The Bloody Podcassacre with Zac Walters and Kennedy Catherine.
And that's the podcast. Because at this point,
it's really all I do have to say. But this is the Bloody Podcassacre. Did I say Podcassacre again?
I didn't catch it that time.
Oh my goodness.
I was more focused if I was going to say my name or your name.
Go ahead, say my name. Did that feel sexual?
It felt weird. With Kennedy Catherine.
And Zac Walters.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How did I first hear about this movie? I was scrolling through a list. I don't even know where. Probably Reddit or something like that. That was more like unknown, terrifying films. And this one had a bunch of comparisons to the Blair Witch Project, which is why I suggested it. Am I going to say it was a mistake? No. It just doesn't provide a lot of content.
I honestly didn't mind the movie.
Me neither.
Because it's not what I was expecting it to be. Because I expected it to be kind of like a copycat of Blair Witch. And it is not at all.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it felt like a long episode of Dateline.
It really is. Because it's more of a documentary.
Right.
Versus then found footage is the style.
This is the last broadcast, by the way.
Right.
Not us doing
not
the last
you and
broadcast. The movie is called The Last Broadcast.
Yes, it came out in 1998.
Sure did.
I was 3.
In 98? Mm-hmm. Great year.
My brother was born in 98. That's all I have for 98. 2 years until the Y2K apocalypse.
I feel like there was a bad tornado that year. I could be making that up completely.
Around
though.
here?
Yeah.
Or just in general?
Well, I'm sure there was one just in general, but I think around here.
I don't think that tornadoes exist here in my mind.
What? Yes, they do.
Because I never hear of them actually touching down in recent years.
I'm Googling this.
Okay, well, and that's weather with Zach and Ken.
Well, apparently there was a horrible one in 1912.
Oh, my favorite year. It's the year the Titanic sank.
Is it actually?
Yeah, 1912, April 12th, 1912.
Here's the thing. I can
Not
know so
12th.
many things about something, but not retain the actual facts. Fun fact that I learned this morning.
You're like, but I can retain this fact.
Boney M, the main guy from Boney M, famously saying Rasputin,
Yep.
died on the same day that Rasputin died. And he died in Russia in the same place that Rasputin died. Completely coincidentally, they were performing there. His heart failed.
This seems like an episode of Fact or Fiction. Wow, I really did that, hey?
That is what we in the biz call a callback, and you nailed it.
That seems... It's too weird of a coincidence.
You have a 1 in 365%.
That you do. That you really do.
You know what I mean.
Yes. You have a 1%.
No, a 1 in 365 degree odd. Yes, that's right.
What is it? A 1 in 365 day.
No, a 1 in 365 chance.
Yes.
That's it.
Of days to
Yes,
die.
right.
There.
Oh, that's going to be so painful to listen to. And that's the day, and that's the place.
That's scary.
That is spooky.
That's like dying where you were born. Like, I don't know. I was just trying to like compare to something.
Dying where you were born? That's very common. Oh, you mean like the actual building?
The actual spot.
You know what? For a lot of people in small towns, that would be the case.
I don't like to think about that.
It's really sad. One time, no, I'm not going to tell
Yeah,
the story. Never
I
mind.
feel like whatever it was going to be,
No one needed to know.
the last broadcast. So this movie was released before the Blair Witch Project. And it was kind of one of they coin it a lot as found footage, in which everybody does, but I think it's like faux horror documentary style.
So it was dubbed the first desktop feature film?
Yes, which is actually crazy.
Yeah.
Because when you think like just some people in Pennsylvania making a movie
For
with their friends.
no money.
Compared to like something like in Hollywood where they haven't even picked that up yet because they're still working with film.
Right?
It blows my mind that they are like one of the first people to ever create something. So when they say desktop feature film, it means to be like filmed, edited, and screened all digitally. There's
Right.
no film, which is what majority of movies and theaters still were using to make movies.
Right.
So to have that like kind of caliber under its belt.
Yeah, and you never hear about it. And they distributed to theaters digitally, which was like almost unheard of at the time.
Because nobody had digital projectors. It was all still film, which is still crazy to think about that in 98. That's still
that's not that long ago.
No, because we had televisions, which were not using film projectors. So you have some concept of like digital.
Yeah.
I mean, we still had VHS tapes. So strange to wrap your head around. Should we?
I'll just.
You know what? Maybe we should give the little plot.
It's not long.
Yes.
So the film is based upon a documentary filmmaker. It's a mockumentary for 80% of it. And that mockumentary focuses on filmmaker David Lee and his investigation into the quote-unquote fact or fiction murders. In Fact or Fiction, it was a cable TV public access television show. It had 2 hosts, and they were murdered under mysterious circumstances. The body of one of those hosts was never found, and David seeks to discover the truth behind these killings while making his documentary. Fact or Fiction was a show dealing with unsolved mysteries and the paranormal. Its 2 hosts were Johnny and Locus. Not Locust, not Lucas, Locus. A caller called and suggests that the team search for the Jersey Devil, which is a mythic figure in New Jersey. Johnny and Locus recruit a sound man who allegedly could record the paranormal, and then Jim Seward, a psychic. David later says that Jim is emotionally disturbed. The plan is for the 4 men to go to the Pine Barrens, a large forest, where Jim will lead them to the site of the Jersey Devil. During the hunt, they will broadcast a live show simultaneously via television, internet, and amateur radio. They enter the Barrens, but only Jim comes out alive. The others are brutally murdered, and Johnny's body is never found. Jim was the only suspect eventually charged with the murders. During his trial, testimony shows that Johnny could not have survived given the loss of blood found at the crime scene. The prosecution strengthened their case with the work of a video engineer who compiled a documentary of the group's trip using the surviving film footage. Some observers doubt Jim's guilt because his clothes were not bloody and there was evidence that he was engaged in a chat room at the time of the murders. Before his conviction can be appealed, Jim dies in prison of unknown causes. David, the filmmaker, receives a box containing a damaged video reel, which he at first assumes is a tape from the Fact or Fiction team, although none was believed to exist. He hires a data retrieval expert to reconstruct the images on the tape. She finds that the murders were caught on tape, and Jim could not have killed them. She finds a blurred image of the real killer, and as David videotapes her using an image editor to reconstruct the image of the killer's face, she is shocked to discover that the killer is David himself. The camera shifts, and viewers see David attack the analyst, suffocating her. He loads her body into his car, drives out to the woods, and dumps it in a clearing. He begins to tape himself narrating the next segment of his documentary. And that is the last broadcast. So as you can see, it's mostly like this mockumentary, and a lot of it is made up of different interviews with different TV personalities or journalists in the area. David Seward's psychiatrist.
The sheriff.
The data analyst before she's killed. And then in the last maybe like 6 minutes of the film, we switched perspectives to just David filming.
Yeah. It becomes a third person perspective, which really I think a lot of people don't start with this. When I was reading online about this movie, a lot of people like were really enjoying the first like, I don't know, because it's an hour and a half. So the first hour and so, and then when it takes that like kind of shift, everybody starts hating the movie. And I get it because it feels so out of place because all of a sudden we've been watching these like news broadcasts and like interviews and all this stuff, and it takes like this change to all of a sudden we are part of it, like we're following around.
So in the beginning of the film for this first hour, you're sort of as a viewer under the impression that this is a found footage documentary. And you're watching something that would have been actually televised. But then at the end, it is an actual third person. We're seeing him with the camera. So we're kind of, as a viewer, unsure what we're viewing.
Yeah.
The whole thing is like a movie, but the beginning of it is not.
Yeah. It feels very like those two pieces don't fit well together, even though as a whole, I really actually liked this movie.
I did too.
Because the ending twist, I wasn't expecting it. And I was like, this was really good. I really liked it. And even like, I say acting, like, quote unquote, like acting and because it wasn't really the greatest. It's not like it's the worst thing in the world, because I watched this featurette on YouTube that I found, which was like a making of, which was just the two filmmakers talking about it. And their whole goal of this movie was just to like make it for themselves and their friends so that they can watch something they created while they had pizza and beer.
And knowing that, it's great.
Yeah, it is. It's so well done for the amount of like effort that they put into it.
And the money, $900?
Which is insane.
That's nothing.
So they said that they mostly put their money towards food to feed people and gas for traveling.
How did they edit it all?
They had all of the equipment. So the one, I can't remember, the person who is sitting in front of the huge computer in which they're talking about the internet, because they always call it the internet, and it is threatening every single time. But the thing that they're sitting in front of is their own system. They had everything. So they had their editing software, they had their computers, they had all of their own cameras. So they didn't have to spend money on film. So they were saying that they were very lucky that they had.
So they were kind of in the perfect position to shoot a low budget film.
Yes, especially with, at the time, all of their stuff is the highest quality that a consumer can buy on the market.
And it's still not bad. So I watched this movie on YouTube. We both did. You can find it there for free. And it's not bad quality. No,
it's actually pretty good. And I do like the tracking elements on it. And they were just saying that they used, like, what are those called? The transitions that were pre-programmed into the computer as part of it, just to make it look like it was just a regular news broadcast that would just be going out.
That was the only thing that I sort of immediately noticed as seeming low budget, is not even, so when they are interviewing, quote unquote, interviewing people, they will have, you know, the name of the person. That looks all fine and good. But the fake segments of the news channels, the logos and the microphones, all look very fake. But that's about it.
All of the actors in the movie are their either friends or family.
Yeah, I noticed that because they're all credited as themselves too.
It's so funny because when I was looking through the credits, because I thought maybe they would do like a Blair Witch style where they don't have names and stuff.
Right.
But their names in the movies are just like slightly twinged on their real names. So if it was like Kennedy Catherine, it'd be like Ken Katrina was your name.
Even
and it's just
Jim Stewart, it's like Jim Suard, and in real life it's Seward.
Yes, it's just like there's just slight twists of their names where I was like, clever, but also at the same time,
what are you accomplishing?
Yeah, what was the purpose of it? This last 10 minutes of the movie I want to talk about. So when we switch into this third person and we have the reveal that the person who is making this mockumentary is the killer, when he decides to strangle, well, I guess it's not strangle, it's suffocating. When he decides to suffocate the person who is working on enhancing the image, I thought that was so terrifying to watch because it seemed so real. For especially knowing that it was like a low budget movie, I was like, is this woman actually dead?
Also, the part where he gets really close to her face was actually terrifying.
And by when close to, she is presumed dead.
He suffocates her with a plastic sheet.
Yes. In this room that is fully covered in plastic. It's very like American Psycho, prepped and ready to go. So he suffocates her with the sheet and she's just lying on the floor. And he kind of like lays on top of her, but just pushes his nose into her face while she's like covered in the plastic. And I was like, I don't like this at all. It's very like obviously notions of a serial killer.
Absolutely.
Because he is one.
Spoiler alert. He is one, yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot about that until you brought it up because it was just like slight like poking with the tip of his nose into her nose.
The fact that none of these people are actually actors is shocking. Everybody was very good. They must have done a lot of, well, first of all, it wouldn't have been scripted, which I do think is very helpful for a person who's not an actor.
Yes.
Because to regurgitate a line with like emotion or any sort of believability when you're not an actor is very hard. But if everyone's comfortable, it's just your friends and they're just shooting the shit. But this guy nailed it.
He really did.
So did the guy who played Jim.
He was so good. Jim is the one who is accused.
The psychic.
Yeah, and he is the psychic who is accused in the beginning of the film, who goes out with the original two filmmakers. I just remember what I was going to say also. So he goes out with the two filmmakers, and he, for some reason, the one thing that I remember about his character, which I absolutely hated, was that he had a fascination for magic.
Yes.
If you know me, I absolutely hate close-up magic. I think it is disgusting and terrifying. And when people like do sleight of hand in front of me, I get nauseated. I am ready to vomit.
For what reason?
I don't know. I get so uncomfortable because like, I don't want you to do this to me. I remember specifically, I was in like a student leadership conference in high school, and there was this guy, and he was in a straitjacket, and he was doing magic tricks.
No.
And I put a card in between my hands, and then it was gone, and he pulled it out of his mouth after he took the straitjacket off, and I said, I need to go be alone. It freaks me out. I don't know what, but as soon as it crosses paths with me and I am dealing one-on-one with someone who claims themselves to be a magician or a sleight of hand artist,
Claims themselves to be a magician.
I am out. I can't do it.
I'm not understanding what you're like. Is it a discomfort?
I think it's just discomfort.
Because for
discomfort.
Discomfort. For me, it's I don't like performance. I don't like close-up performance. I don't want someone to sing in my face. I don't want to see acting in front of me. And I don't like having to put on a performance with a performer, because that's what's happening is when someone is doing something one-on-one with you, there is an expectation that you perform alongside them and that you have to assume a role. And I am immediately going to reject that.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's also why I don't like it, because I'm like, or else I just want people to tell me, like, I have to like pull me aside and be like, hey, the reason the card is gone from your hands is because XYZ. And I would have been like, thank you for saving me. It's not like I'm like, wow, this is magic. I just like, I don't like it. The thought process of it throws me through a loop and I get ill.
Point blank, it is not it for you.
So if you ever see me, don't.
I just don't want to have to be involved.
Fair. Like if I can watch from a distance, great.
Yeah.
Like I can watch Chris Angel Mind Freak or David Blaine.
I would love some Chris Angel Mind Freak. In fact, I looked for it during COVID and you can't find it anywhere.
No.
You have to get the Amazon box sets for like $55.
And I'm surprised like A&E doesn't have it just for streaming or anything. It's wiped. Is this a Mandela?
I was just gonna say, is this a conspiracy theory?
No, because I just watched a video where he's popped up recently. He's been prevalent in my life.
Okay.
I also maybe am scared of Chris Angel. Do you remember that one where he split somebody in half on the table?
No.
I absolutely despise that episode. It's like he's outside like on a park and he split somebody in half, presuming that the person doesn't have any limbs below. So it's just like probably like an animatronic or like something that looks like it's a real full person, but when it splits in half, they're actually just a person who doesn't have legs. And so they're crawling around on their arms being like, what the hell happened? I hate it.
Wait, sorry. So this is like a stunt that's performed where you are made to believe that a person who's actually without legs has had their legs cut off.
Just pulled apart by Chris Angel.
That is...
And watching it as a child, God.
Wildly inappropriate and ableist.
I'm going to find it so I can send it to you.
That feels really weird and wrong to me.
Well, I mean, also think back... early 2000s.
I know, it was a different
TV
time.
was...
But imagine objectifying someone in that position to be like, and now you're going to crawl around on the ground and act as if this thing has happened to you and you're freaking out about it? It's just so terrible.
In my mind, I was like, how can you fully split somebody apart?
You can't. They die.
But like also like clean. No blood. No anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything is fine. And wow. Anyways, magicians. Jim is a magician.
Tangents. And he does a couple of different things. So the one thing that he did was a date showed up on his arm.
Yes, which was so well done.
It was. Everything that was the quote-unquote magic was very well done. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's something to be said. I will circle back to my point. But I wonder if there's something to be said for the fact that there was no pressure in this film. That they were like, we want to make something fun for our friends. And that's why it was so well executed, rather than them overthinking everything to death and trying so hard to execute things properly, that it just kind of worked out. Because even though it's not the most enthralling or engaging movie, it's not going to be anybody's favorite. Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
No, it really is. I was like, I would watch this again.
For me, it was very nostalgic. It reminded me a lot of like Dateline mixed with the X-Files and just 90s found footage. There was a lot of elements that I just thought, this is something that I would throw on in the background on a Sunday morning while I'm cleaning.
Oh my god, there's so many times that he splits people in half.
Okay, send me one. I'll watch it later.
I'm gonna click that save later.
My watch later list is
wild.
I don't.
I couldn't tell you. It is like 10 hours of like heavy rain. Wendy Williams, except there's no talking. Like, it's just like, it is this amalgamation of just garbage.
We are logged into my YouTube on the communal TV in my house.
Oh, they're gonna say also, but also we are logged into the communal.
Yes, I've accidentally saved things to the Podcassacre YouTube before. Mine goes. This is just like this is the best glimpse into my personality that I could ever give you. Morbid mystery, the death of Elisa Lam, Aqua, cartoon heroes, live, morning yoga, 20-minute wake up.
Yeah, mine is like a lot of like random art things, and then it'll be like some music, some movie trailers I want to watch. How to fix AirPods in 15 seconds.
I need to circle back because it'll drive me nuts when I'm editing this. We're logged into my communal YouTube on the TV in my living room. So anything that I have searched on any device will pop up if we go to search something. So the other day, my roommate and I were sitting there, and she went to search something that started with W. And it just came up, Wawa-wee-wa, Borat.
Wawa-wee-wa.
It's like, I don't know, apparently I needed to listen to that one day.
Also, the last thing that I want to say is I have Looney Tunes 5-hour compilation of the cartoons from 1932 to 1960.
Honestly, it would probably be very enjoyable.
Just something to like throw on a Saturday morning.
I wonder, let's see what else. How They Made the Invisible Man. Bruce Springsteen, Human Touch. What a week of food looks like when you're a lazy vegan. Once again, summary of my personality.
Yes. And you know what? I probably would watch all of those as well. Not the Bruce Springsteen one, but you know.
You know I love him.
I know.
Okay. There's so many things to talk about and yet nothing. So I want to ask a question that was on my mind while I was watching this movie.
Yes.
If you were in a position where you could or had to make, say, a documentary with a group of friends or a team that was sort of similar to this, like a mystery, true crime, anything like that, what would be something that has stuck with you for a long time that you would want to focus on as your subject?
I'm trying to think something that like has personal ties to me, where it would be more interesting, that it would be fulfilling, that I would be, you know, happy filming. But I can't think of anything like off the top of my head that I'm like, oh, it would be this.
Is there anything that's like not mystery related that you would want to make something about?
No. The only thing that I can think of is like a haunted hospital in Yorkton. That would be very interesting.
That would be. If you could go back in the archives and you could speak to historians, that would be interesting.
The thing is like I wouldn't want to maybe do like a full feature length. It'd be like short episodes.
Right.
Like 25 minutes, you know, wrap it all up. But then the problem is 25 minutes leads to like a full season, and then all of a sudden you have a Netflix special, and then you have to do like a full limited series, and
you live in Los Angeles.
I know.
It's a whole thing.
It's so hard, and I just don't have the time for that in this busy schedule that I currently run.
Right.
So it's gonna have to be put on the back burner for now.
Okay, understandable.
What about you? Do you have any that you would? I feel like you would have quite a bit.
I do. The one thing that's always stuck with me that I have for years wanted to do something on, and in fact I reached out to a family member of this person, but for a number of reasons it didn't pan out. There was a woman who was murdered in the 80s in, I believe, Vancouver, but some of the details are lost on me, and it was just a very interesting case. She presumably, it was ruled like an unknown cause of death. And she had said for years that she'd been stalked and that she'd been assaulted, and that this person had broken into her home, had left her messages, all these things. Her name is Cindy James, for anybody who either knows or wants to look it up. There was never any physical evidence that anything happened that couldn't have been perpetuated by her. There's a lot of really interesting facets to the case. Her ex-husband, who she presumably had a good relationship with, was a psychiatrist. He worked with a man who was sued for patient abuse, for trying to basically manipulate people into doing things and believing certain things about themselves. I firmly believe that if she did something, and if she ultimately died by suicide, I don't think that she was aware that she was doing the things that happened. And it's a very, very, very interesting case. That's such a bad breakdown of it, but honestly, it's fascinating, and I would love to do something with that someday.
Should we start a side project where we like get a full wall and start like putting pins together? And...
Yes, we should. That would be mine. I think about her all the time. It's very weird. You know, when you just like, for some reason, you just feel connected to something.
It is slightly odd. I think the last thing that we can kind of talk about is the whole
Jersey Devil.
Yeah. Which is not in relation to the New Jersey Devils hockey team. Is it a hockey team? I don't know.
Why would I ever know that?
I
do think it is a hockey team, though. So the Jersey Devil. I've actually I listened to a very long podcast about the Jersey Devil back in the day. Did you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk about it?
We can kind of just bounce off each other.
Okay. So there was a woman.
Well, first off, the Jersey Devil in the movie is what the Fact or Fiction crew
is trying to find.
Yes, is trying to find through kind of an anonymous tip through their weird voice generator that they have. It's like, you don't know a thing on the Jersey Devil. And I was like, okay, that's excessive. But I'm assuming that they have some inkling of knowledge of what it is prior to actually going out. But that is kind of their main motivation for going and doing this broadcast in the woods live on the internet.
That's so wild. The usage of the internet in this movie is so funny.
Yeah.
They're basically like, the internet is this unknown thing that we don't know anything about. Nothing like this has ever been done before.
Yeah, now we're like...
This is what we're doing, actually.
Talking about things on the internet.
Yes. So the year is 1735, and a woman known as Mother Leeds, some publications known as Jane Leeds, finds out that she is pregnant with her 13th child. And she was so sick and tired of being pregnant that she cursed the child in frustration and cried out that this child would be the devil. Cut to, Mother Leeds gives birth. There's different versions of this story. So in some, immediately a sort of thing comes out, and it's like a hooved, goat-headed, bat-winged, fork-tailed being that immediately murders her, and everyone in the house goes up through the chimney and now lives in the woods. In other versions of the story, it lives with them until it's like 4, and then it kind of goes out on its own, but it still comes back every once in a while and has a connection to the family. In other versions, she's a witch, which, I mean, everybody at that time was a witch, apparently, in history. All these different things, but the most widely accepted version of events is basically she gives birth to this
demon. Yeah,
it's a cryptid of sorts, and it's amalgamation of things. What is that called? A chimera?
Chimera.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that because of this devil, that the crops were failing, that the cows stopped giving milk because of it, and droughts ensued. Droughts. That's, yes.
That is the word.
I was like thinking, and I was like, no, it's droughts.
No, it's droughts.
Apparently, the Jersey Devil blew the tops off trees and boiled streams. He was also blamed for the loss of all livestock and believed that he appeared every 7 years.
Huh.
Sure.
Do you know what I read that was so interesting to me, and I felt so silly for never having thought of this? So at the time, it feels ridiculous that anyone would invest in this story, because at some point this all comes back around in the culture of the time, social consciousness, if you will, in more of like the 1900s. And you might think to yourself, how or why would anybody believe this? There are stories at the time of Native Americans would come and tell stories to like white settlers of these creatures that would walk in by the hundreds, and they would do X, Y, and Z, and all these people would be like, oh, these mythical beings. But then they would go further, and then it would be buffalo. They would hear these kind of crazy mythical stories that they thought were crazy and mythical from Native Americans, but they were actually just animals that they didn't know were real yet. So ostensibly, it makes sense that as people are discovering animals essentially for the first time, that they might think like that is going to be just like that thing. It might be real.
And like a lot of like the thing with its kind of base features is it having hooves, it having, I think a lot of people were like kind of seeing like a goat or a lamb.
Right.
There have been obviously quote unquote sightings of this Jersey Devil. There was one in 1859. There was one on the New York border in 1899. And then the kind of like most famous one that created a lot of panic was in 1909. After 1909, the scientific community was kind of asking people for explanations of like where the story has originated, why are people, et cetera, because it's probably passed on by word of mouth. A lot of science professors in Philadelphia, which I don't think that, sorry, when I say science professors in Philadelphia, it sounds like in 1909, but I don't think that it was. I think that this is more in recent times.
Oh, so science professors in Philadelphia now are reporting this.
Yes.
Got it.
And experts from the Smithsonian Institution thought that the devil could be a prehistoric creature from the Jurassic period in which people just saw bones instead of actual live being. But then the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia could not locate any record of a living dead species resembling the Jersey Devil. The superintendent of the Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for the devil's capture, and that the reward still remains uncollected. Should we go find it?
I guess, listen.
The calling's out there.
We've heard our life's mission.
We are the new Fact or Fiction hosts.
I would love nothing more than to be those two guys.
We
They
kind
looked
of
like they
are.
were having the time. They kind of are. We're a version of them, but like they looked like they were having the time of their lives.
They had the matching cowboy shirts.
I loved it.
Me too. Should we
should.
take a trip to Philly?
I
No.
don't.
Well, I guess Jersey.
Jersey. I'll go to Jersey. Can we get bolo ties?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, well then I need one.
Yeah.
Great. So that's the Jersey Devil, and basically
Yes.
it's just.
The rundown.
Also, Jersey was, they declared it their national demon in like 1908 or something like that. They're one of few states to have a national demon.
Good.
So good for them.
And now it's their sports team.
It is considered a type of cryptid, but because it is one of the ones that doesn't have any sort of quote unquote evidence. So say like Bigfoot, even though people would dispute it, there is quote unquote evidence of Bigfoot in the way that there is not for the Jersey Devil. So it's kind of like a little separate thing of its own.
I saw this awful photo of the Jersey Devil, and it looked like a Photoshop, like, small baby sheep flying through the air. And I was like, I can't. I was like, I'm done researching this Jersey Devil. Also,
kind of cute.
I know. And it was just like, it had like this little tail with like the little spike horn, and good for it.
I love that for him.
Me too. And that's kind of this movie.
Should we rate it?
Yeah.
It's not scary. I'm going to go 0 on the scary scale.
Yeah, there wasn't any points where I was like, the thing that I think was the scariest was the music. It was so eerie, and it's so consistent through the whole thing that it really like adds this level of like dark, scary tones to it.
Yep.
But the footage itself, other than the nose tap of the
serial killer.
Yes, is terrifying. Unsettling?
No.
I was even trying to think, like, being in the woods with, like, your friends and stuff.
Would
like,
you think of it? I wouldn't.
No. But, like, the character of, like, obviously James?
Jim Seward?
Yes, Jim. Jim and James is the same thing. When he, like, runs off into the woods and he's like, I'm going back to the base.
Yeah.
Weird.
Scary.
Also, remember that time that he had a psychic fit on the ground?
I couldn't tell what was happening. The cut to that scene, to me, I thought he was fighting someone.
Yeah, it's so out of place, and it's just like he's just thrashing on the ground a bunch. That's probably the most unsettling part, is the psychic magician.
Poor Jim. Also, how did Jim die? If he was in prison, did we ever find that out?
No.
Because it's not like David could have killed him.
That is a mystery. Unsolved mysteries. Story.
Okay.
I'd say like a 6.
I was gonna say like a 7. I actually, for just a couple friends making some shit, it's a well thought out story.
And it's like nice, short, sweet.
Yeah.
Not a lot to it. You can like kind of walk away and come back to it, and you're like,
no, still here.
Yeah.
Hour and 26.
Easy. I would really recommend it. Just for like if you're looking for something kind of as like a groundbreaking movie. No. Something that, what's the words I'm looking for? Shows its roots. Where it lays the groundwork for a lot of movies.
Yeah, I don't think that's true either.
But it started a lot.
I don't think it did.
I think that is a lie saying it, because the thing is when I was researching it, Blair Witch was conceptualized in 1993.
It was.
Yeah.
They
So
tried.
everything that I said is a lie, technically.
But.
Caught in a lie on film.
Oh, was it a paper cut? Or was it a bloody massacre?
It's definitely like a paper cut for me. Yeah, paper cut.
Solid paper cut.
There's not much to it. It was fun. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's enjoyable to watch. It's not painful.
Nope. It's just sort of in a category of its own in terms of if you're if you're looking for something to scare you, this ain't it. But it is just like a nice mythology.
Watch.
Like it's nice if you whatever.
It's hard to describe it.
I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I know what I'm trying to say, but I have got no words for it.
Mockumentary horror.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Well,
God.
short, sweet, and to the point.
You know where to find us: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram @Podcassacre. Send us an email to Bloody Podcassacre. Like, subscribe, comment, YouTube, ratings, reviews, all of the things. We love it. We love getting your guys' emails. We'll be doing more recommendations soon. Until next time.
Some reporters would kill for the ultimate story. Others will die.
That's actually pretty good.
It is.